Hey guys, so I'm back for another flight recap. This time it is, let me get this right. This time it's going to be KLXV, and I flew down to KAEJ, I believe. I did this one a little while ago as well, the flight itself. And the reason I did it is because the KLXV is, I believe, the highest public use airport in North America. I believe it's somewhere around 9,900 feet. Actually, I could check that right here. Maybe. Nope, it's not going to let me. Well, it says right here on my thing, 9,930 feet. So I was close, 9,900. But anyway, I thought about it after realizing some of the realism factors in Infinite Flight. I wanted to test out some other ones. And I wanted to see, how realistic was it as far as altitudes and stuff. So, I decided I was going to use the XCub. And, yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. That's there. I decided I was going to use the XCub. I actually tried almost every plane on Infinite Flight at this airport just to see what could take off and what couldn't, at what parameters, as far as weight, wind, headwind, tailwind, seeing what would be able to take off and what wouldn't with different weights and powers and fuels. And honestly, all the other stuff was kind of uneventful at this airport. I was kind of boring. But this one kind of stood out because it was difficult to get up in the air. But once I did, I was able to keep it up in the air. A lot of the other airplanes, it was like, well, you're either up in the air or you're not. This one, I was able to keep it up in the air, so I thought, well, I'm going to fly it out and see what happens. Now, keep in mind, to get up in the air with the XCub at this airport at 9,900 feet, I had to have the tank pretty empty. I don't remember exactly how empty, and I don't believe I can check. I tried. I couldn't figure out how. But I had to have the tank pretty empty. So I didn't have a lot of fuel. But before I took off, just in case I was able to take off with some of the smaller planes, because to be clear, the bigger planes had no problem. The airliners obviously had no problem taking off from here. It was just, it took longer than normal. And in real life, you wouldn't see huge airliners in this airport anyway. But it was the smaller planes I was interested in. The 172, the XCub, the Cirrus SR-22, the TBM. A lot of the smaller planes I was interested in trying at this airport. And I got a lot of different varying results, but in the end, I wasn't impressed by most of them. It was kind of like, okay, well, I didn't really expect the Cessna to do great, and it didn't. But anyway, the XCub was one that it once I got it up in the air, I could tell I had a positive rate, but it was ever so slight. And it was very difficult to hold, but if I held it, I knew I could make it. And before I started taking off, I checked and made sure of what was around me, and I saw that, there was an airport right in front, lined up pretty good. And that was the big thing, because at the altitude I'm at, I didn't have the ability to turn. Turning was a real problem, and I knew I wouldn't be able to make a 90-degree turn in any short distance. And I also knew there was mountains around me, as you can see in the back here. There's mountains over there, there's mountains behind me, there's mountains over there. I really had nowhere to go except forward, but when I saw that there was in fact another airport right there, KAEJ, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try to make it to that airport. Now, again, keep in mind, I don't think this would be a normal flight that most people would do. I don't think you're going to see an XCub coming up out of, KLXV. But I thought it was awesome, and I wanted to try it and see if I could do it legit. So let's get into it. I did hand fly the entire thing. I couldn't get up high enough to turn autopilot on. Honestly, the takeoff's going to look like shit, and the takeoff was shit, but I was just really impressed I was able to get up. And this was with no wind. There was no, it was bad. It was bad. We got the big tires on. It's okay. We can handle it. I take that back. I think there was a little bit of a crosswind, and that's why I had so much problem keeping it steady. you know, it is what it is. But like I said, the takeoff sucked, and I get it. I mean, I even stalled it out right here, I believe, and brought it right back down onto the runway. But it was really cool to see that I was able to get it up and keep it up for the most part. And I stalled it a few times, but I was able to keep it in the air. Yep, right there we touched down again. But we lifted off again before the end of the runway. I had this little bit of a ravine here, and I tried to use that with most of the planes. And honestly, even with the ravine, most of the planes, you know, I used the P-38, the Cessna 172. The Cirrus just flat out wasn't having it. And I have no doubt the Cirrus could have done it, but I don't think I tried. Because certain planes, like I knew the Cirrus, if I didn't have it over full, it would take off with no problem. The Cirrus is rated up to, what, 25,000 feet? So I knew that it would be able to take off. The question was the runway long enough, and could it do it when it was loaded up? Because I didn't want to just do empty planes for everything. I mean, I knew all the empty planes could do it. So here I had to get around this mountain here. Or hill. There's more of a hill. The others are more mountains. But you can see how low I was. I mean, it was pretty low. I was close to the ground. I'm only going 97 knots. Now, of course, once I got around that hill there that I just got around, it became pretty easy. The big difference was once I got around that hill, everything was downhill and it was pretty straight. So I was able to keep the wings pretty level and try to ascend a little bit. Now, ascending did not work out. I tried. I really was just hoping I could get to 10,000 feet. I couldn't. I don't even know if the XCub's supposed to get to 10,000 feet. But I'd have to look that one up. But I tried to get to 10,000 feet. I was hoping I could get to 10,000 feet. I was like, if I can get to 10,000 feet, I'm about 500 feet off the deck. And that would be wonderful. But I couldn't get it. So, but the good news was that KAEJ was only 23 nautical miles away, and KAEJ was 1,000 feet lower. So if I could just get out of where I was, which I did, then I should be fine. Basically after that last hill there. So the rest of it I was pretty okay. I mean, I ended up having to fly in the ravines. I was below the hills around me for a little bit, so it was unnerving. I knew if anything happened, I was going to be screwed. But I kind of used the ravines to my advantage here. And yeah, I'm skipping through it a little bit, but I used the ravines to my advantage here and actually flew in the ravines. And again, you can see like the hills on the right, the hills on the left, everything's above me. I mean, that's just how it was. I tried, but I could not gain altitude. We're actually 100 feet down, I believe, from where... We're about 100 feet down from where I was when I came around that hill. So, fast forward a little bit. Again, I kept using those ravines, kept using them. And even, keep in mind that even KAEJ was not an easy task. I mean, I'm still at, I think when I landed I was still at 8,500 feet or something. Maybe a little more. I'm not sure. But it was not an easy task to bring the XCub down into KAEJ with that little lift on the wings. I mean, it really wasn't. So the landing was kind of shit, but you hear that a lot. Oh, the landing was shit, and the landing's always shit for me. No, I do some pretty good landings, but not when I'm doing this kind of stuff. So then once we got out of that little death trap with all those hills and ravines, it was a lot easier. Once I got up to here, it was more flat land, as you can see. I mean, to the right at least. To the left, I still had a little bit of hillage, but I knew if I had to take it to the right, I could. I just couldn't let it veer off to the left very far. But as you can see now, we're already at 8,550 feet. Like I said, I think it was 8,000 when I touched down at the runway, but maybe not. Then fast forward a little bit. Now we're getting up towards the runway. I did come in low. That was not on purpose, but it also wasn't on accident. I mean, I came down a little bit slower than I should have. But once I realized that I had to come in low from where I was, I couldn't reclimb. So I just kind of had to stick it out. And like I said, that was the real challenge, is I just had no lift. There was absolutely, the flaps are all the way down, I had no lift. So, I mean, what I did is what I did. Like, I couldn't bring her up any higher, I couldn't speed up that much more. There was no quick inputs. Everything I did had to be done just right, and it had a huge effect. Once I dropped throttle, I wasn't getting that altitude back that I lost. I wasn't getting the speed back that I lost. So then I came in a little too far. Came in on KAEJ, and again, I knew I was going to drop like a rock, so I came in a little high there and kind of came down. But I do believe I bounced. I know I stalled. Yep, there's bounce. Bounce. I guess I didn't stall. It says I stalled. There's a red mark, but yeah, it was a little bit bouncy. But all in all, I mean, it wasn't too bad. Came down a little hard, but I hope you guys enjoyed that one. It was definitely a fun flight. You know, Leadville Airport is a blast to fly out of and into on Flight Simulator, but it definitely can be a challenge depending on what you're flying it with. But if you guys enjoyed, I appreciate if you like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.